Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll call the Light Board meeting to order. And our first new thing on the agenda today will be introduction of our newest member, Mike Landis. So Mike, do you know everybody here?
I just met everybody that I don't know, so we'll,
Did you meet Jeff?
Yes.
I think we did know that.
No, Jeff Ely, I'm the energy efficiency coordinator.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Most of the folks have run through the finance committee at some point, so I've had some, they certainly
you've
weren't
been-
there.
you've
They
been
certainly weren't
involved.
around when I was a selectman. The only one who was there was Peter and wherever Mark went to, so.
Okay, and Bill, have you met Mike?
Just
Just
this
now.
morning.
Oh,
just
okay,
now.
sure. Okay. With that, we'll move right along to our second item on the agenda is I will receive public comments. Is there anyone from the public who wants to say anything? Now is the time to do it. Feel free.
The only one from the public, I guess. The only thing I want to bring up is that I noticed that there's a Office of the Town Manager has issued a duties and Danvers Municipal Light Board responsibilities. I have items on here that we have talked about during your meetings in regard to the funding and how it's spent and all of that. But there's no place in here that you approved the budget, or you developed the budget, or you even approved the budget. You review it. So my question is, what are the real responsibilities of the Municipal Light Board? Thank you.
Well, with that, I will say, one of our major responsibilities of the Light Board is to approve the adjuster each month. Or not so much, but to review it each month. And if we're going to change the adjuster each month, we have to look at it. And that is one of our major responsibilities, Mike, is the power purchase adjustment. We look at it every month here, Mike. Other utilities like Peabody, they do it every 3 or 4 months, was it, Bill?
Yeah, quarterly typically at
Yeah.
DD.
Yeah, we do it a little differently here in Danvers. We look at it every month. We don't necessarily change it, because we have a good idea. We're doing something right now, we know basically what our costs are, we know what our loads are going to be, and so we're not changing it all the time to just keep those fluctuations in your bill a little more stable. So that's kind of how we're doing it here. So that is primarily our, other than that, we're an advisory board, and those are the duties of the Light Board.
See, the one thing that I noticed, item number 3 on here is approved tariffs that are submitted to the Massachusetts Department of Public Works, Public Utilities. And that to me means that you approve the base rate that is submitted to the DPU. And as far as I remember, 2 meetings ago, there was no record of anything being submitted to the DPU for 9 years. And I witnessed a quick approval of submitting a rate to compensate for that, but there was no discussion of what the rate was all about.
Well, that would have been our base rate, which is 9.4 cents, and that's what we have on record, and it was on record, the
Well,
9.4 cents.
according to the meeting that I recorded, it was not on record, and it was, emergency vote was taken to submit it to the DPU.
It
So,
wasn't on file.
It wasn't on
They
file.
didn't have it filed. That was on their end, not our end.
Okay. Well, the thing is that I would like to get a copy of that submittal, and how was it arrived at? Because I've been asking for that for the last, I don't know, 6 months, or at least the 6 months. And I would just like to, get a copy of what the reasoning was for submitting that
Well,
particular
that was
rate.
done by a previous board, and I can just only assume at this time, that was done before I was here, that it was done based on cost recovery. That's a good,
Cost recovery, that sounds familiar.
that would be my answer to that question.
Well, I would like a copy of the reasoning and the rate that was submitted, please. Thank you.
A copy, what do you mean?
Of the
reason?
submittal. Of
Yeah,
how the,
we have that, right, Peter? Copy of what you sent in?
Yeah, we got the tariff, we can forward them one of those.
Yeah, okay, we'll get you.
thank you.
Okay. With that, I will take a motion to close public comments.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item, accept the minutes from our last meeting on June 18th.
I'll move to accept them as submitted.
I'll second. All in favor? Peter, if you could go over the financials for us.
Mr. Chairman, this morning we're gonna look at the May 31st, 2019 financials of the Danvers Electric Division. We start at the top of the income statement. We'll note that our revenue is down approximately 4% from the sale of electricity. In the middle portion of the income statement, on page 1, the big change there is jobbing and contract work, and that's down a little over $400,000. In a lot of ways, we don't have any control over that. If somebody needs us to do work, well, then we do the work, but it's not something that we don't actively go out and sell jobs for us to do. And last year, we had revenues from when we helped mutual aid, and we went to Florida several times and stuff, and that helped boost that up. It's a good thing that we didn't have to do that this year, but it does affect us on the revenue. So in general, our revenue is down a little less than $1 million, which you can see grand total revenue in the middle of that page.
Peter, before you leave that, the
Sure.
interest income
Yeah.
is up quite a bit,
That's-
$60,000.
We have our cash that we have, the treasurer puts it into MMDT accounts, which I believe stands for Mass Municipal Depository Trust. That, when I spoke to the treasurer about that, he says because it's in those type of accounts, the interest rate will go up quicker than traditional bank rates will for savings and such. And as perhaps we may have all noticed, the Federal Reserve over the last 18 months has in fact raised the interest rate that they're trying to charge, and that directly flows through to these type of accounts.
Okay.
And it actually may have peaked because the Federal Reserve is meeting today and tomorrow, and the consensus is that they're gonna start lowering the rate. So that may start, we may have seen the peak there on that, but that's
Okay.
what that's all about.
All right, thank you.
If we look at the bottom part of the page here, page 1, our purchase power expenses are down about 7.8% for the same period. So that's a good thing that, our major cost, which is power, is in fact down. On the second page of our expenses, the one thing that has changed everything is, if we go down to 2/3 of the way down, I think I mentioned this last meeting, employee pension and benefits, account 926. Last year, we had an adjustment where we had to bring on the full liability of the OPEB liability onto our books because the division had taken money and put it into an MMDT account. We got credit for reducing the liability by that amount of money that we had set aside. Up until that point in time, it was shown as a reduction of cash and an expense. And now that the full liability is brought on, we got a credit last year. So that's why there's a big swing of $1.2 million on that particular line item, which is the vast majority of the decrease in the income on the income statement. So, again, that I've mentioned many times, the OPEB liability and the pension liability, and here, when we brought that OPEB on, it had a major impact last year on the income statement. So we're still to the positive, we're still making money. You know, it's, we're about, well, I guess I'd say a little less than planned. I mean, it's $1 million, and as perhaps everybody on this board realizes, we make a payment in lieu of tax payment to the town of Danvers, which is about $750,000. So at this point in time, the profit is somewhat over, but not by a lot over the payment in lieu of taxes that we make to the town of Danvers. Page 4, we've got our capital projects. That's going along fine. The big thing on page 4, there's sometimes interest in our cash position. And on page 4 at the bottom, we have our stabilization cash and our maintenance cash. And at this point in time, those two accounts are $20.3 million versus $18.2 million last year at this time. So we have approximately a little over $2 million more in cash in those two accounts. If we go to page 5.
Peter, before you leave that page,
Hang on.
Peter, before you leave
I'm
that-
backing up.
Okay, thank you, sorry. In the upper half, the land and land rights, number 360, I noticed a fairly big change there, dropped a lot. What,
As you may recall, we had the right-of-way,
Middleton right-of-way.
the right-of-way that,
Okay.
you know, was, part of that was land.
Okay.
So we don't have that anymore, so we went back and backed out the value
Okay.
of what that was on the books.
yeah, and I forget, did we receive the money from the town?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, what we, as you may recall, we had it on our cash reconciliation that our utility accountant takes care of. And I think somebody suggested that I have it on the books and
Yeah.
as a receivable. We
Right.
did in fact get it on the books, but it's not a receivable that just jumps out. It was a subcategory of
Right. I remember
another
that, yeah.
receivable, but yes, we have received the money from that transaction.
Yeah, I remembered we moved it into receivables. I didn't remember if you told us last meeting that we got it.
We have in fact received it,
Okay.
and it I believe in May, it is reflected in these
Okay.
as actual cash.
Okay. thank
Mike,
you.
the land they're referring to is the
Yeah, the one that.
up in Middleton?
Yeah, that we've had some back and forth, and exactly, we put a big portion of that into one of the, town accounts to dismiss.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because the town got a chunk and Danvers
Yeah.
Electric got a piece, correct.
Yeah, we got about 360,000, something.
Yeah, that's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back onto page 5, the theme of cash. If we look in the middle of the page, we can see account 126, which is depreciation fund. That's our depreciation cash. That's the amount of cash that we set aside purposefully to fund our capital projects for the year. And that is actually $171,000 less than where it was this year, at this point last year. And in total, our cash is up a little over $2 million from where it was last year. Certainly $22.7 million appears, it is a large number, and appears to be a large number. But as I've mentioned before, if we look down to the liabilities, the division has incurred promises, which are reflected as liabilities on these statements. And right here, we've got long-term debt of $5.1 million, and we've got close to $16 million in promises for pension liability and post-employment health benefits, promises that have been made. At this point in time, the value of those promises is $21 million, which, you know, it kind of offsets the value of the cash, and certainly, so we've got cash, but we've got promises in an equally large number that we've promised to current and former employees. So at this
Well, Mike, on the depreciation fund,
Yeah.
from your finance committee, do you remember how that's funded and what that does? You want me to give you 10
Yeah,
seconds?
Yeah, I do more or less with it, yeah, so it's,
Okay.
my recollection with that is that is it basically, we've got a fund to sort of offset the depreciation of our facilities that we have,
Yep.
to maintain those facilities as they go forward.
Right, so we're required by the DPU to put a certain percentage in it each year.
Yeah.
Right now, we're putting 3%, which is on the low end.
Yeah.
And that funds the capital program, the replacement of lines
Yeah.
and poles. And Mark's gonna be giving a quarterly update on that at the next meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
So at this point, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have. I'll entertain certainly any more questions that the board has, but at this point, we're liquid, we're making money, and we seem to be on target for our projections.
One more question, Peter, if you
Certainly.
would. Down in the, on page 5, accounts payable, account 232, that's up almost 50%. Is that just more or less timing?
Yeah.
232?
Oh, 232. Yeah, because we've got, we accrue different things at the end of the month, and then the way we do the payment for purchase power can affect that too. So
Okay.
It all washes out, it's.
Yeah, all right, so it's mostly timing, nothing significant change?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, just one point of information here, you probably already know this, but this is a calendar year.
Yeah, we're not the
Right.
fiscal year July to July like in the regular town budget. Yeah.
Correct.
Thanks.
So, any other questions?
I'm good.
With that, I'll take a motion to accept the financials.
I'll move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Stan, can the public get a copy of that report, please, like we've been getting it before?
Of the financial?
Sure.
Yeah. So we'll put that down, public wants financial update and the, our tariff, rates filed with the state. You'll take care of that, right, Peter?
Yeah, there's the May one right there, Mark.
Thanks, I felt out, as an outcast here.
Okay, Clint, if you could give us an update on the, power purchase
Jeff, you want to slide up?
fuel adjustment?
Absolutely. So I think it's probably easiest if anyone else wants to switch over to the second page here on the graph or the visual representation of where we're at so far this year. So pretty much throughout the entire year, and as of July 1st, kilowatt hour sales have been tracking around 3% below our forecast. And then basically settling out all the invoices for June exclusive of the open access transmission tariff. The actual cost for energy capacity, transmission, and all ancillary services were approximately 4% below forecast and budget. And the total power costs, as Peter had just mentioned, are also about 3% below the forecast. So essentially, as of the end of June, this hasn't captured the PPNFA reduction that that the board approved last month. But it is tracking basically where we had anticipated, landing us with an anticipated $634,000 at the end of the year in the PPNFA over-under fund. So the recommendation is to maintain the current rate at .4669 for residential and .04925 for all others. And then just also an item of note, we successfully ran the temporary generators in June and captured the transmission peak for a projected savings of around $35,000.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
Are we calling it, peak day today?
Yeah.
We have the gens running.
Couple of questions, Clint.
Sure.
Just remind me, what does the generator cost us on a yearly basis, the yearly rental, this summer rental?
What was I think the awarded bid was like
Little
280.
285,000.
Yep.
Okay. And going up to the top, and I know I've asked this before, I just don't remember, on your cover letter
Sure.
page. The second paragraph, we compare to forecast, but then in the third paragraph, we compare to budget and forecast. and I keep getting confused, why do we keep changing what we're measuring against?
Okay, so I like to track, so as far as, just as a, kind of as a benchmark of where we're at with the forecast, so for the actual kilowatt hour sales, because all the budget is tied directly to that. So they
Mhm.
start with basically doing the load forecast for the year.
Right.
Then they'll start tying all the contracts and all the projected, open market expenses and everything of that nature. So I always like to track against the actual load forecast.
Okay.
And then
Kilowatts.
The kilowatt.
And that's in
load.
kilowatt, forecast is
Correct.
kilowatt
Yeah.
hours.
So that's kind of
And
the
that's-
basis for.
yeah.
Budget's
That's
dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
budget is dollars, and is that set annually?
That's a kind of an ongoing, so.
Okay, so these are updated
Correct, so,
regularly by,
so Energy New England is actively working on our 2020 forecast. We get the monthly updates that reflects of the 2019 forecast.
Okay.
And as things change, they update it.
okay, so the forecast is more of a live document than the budget?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought, but I just needed to be refreshed. Thank
They
you.
literally update on a monthly basis and are
Yeah.
ongoing, it's like a spreadsheet that they ongoingly update.
Yeah,
and they
that's
put
what I
their
thought, but I
cost.
just needed to be reminded, thank you.
Mhm. So, and then just, if you wanna flip over to the last page, so for the August 2019, for a typical 750 kilowatt hour residential bill, Danvers lands in just under $100. You can kind of see where we land with, compared to some of our neighbors, and the IOUs way up at the top.
And just an FYI, we were always second. Middleton just went under us
Yeah,
about a month ago.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah,
This reflects our reduced rate?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
We'll never beat Peabody, Mike, because they already told us that they'll just drop their rates.
No matter what we do.
No matter what we do.
PBD's the lowest in the whole.
There is an interrelationship between though service provision and quality of service
That would be
provision
true.
and rate. So we could certainly just drop our rates if we wanted to and not provide the quality of service, right? So we don't wanna do that, no,
We don't want the brownouts again.
no.
Clint, could you just for Mike's purpose, tell him what we're doing with the generator, why
Sure.
we have it, and,
Yeah, absolutely. So we basically put out a bid for the rental of 2 megawatt units for a 4 megawatt temporary generator.
Is that the one at the high school or is that just for the high school?
That's just for the high school,
Okay.
yeah. So this is actually over off of Route 1 in one of our substations,
Okay.
Wood Electric.
Yeah,
This is, I think, the 4th or 5th year we've done it, right?
Yeah.
And so basically what we're trying to accomplish with it is we rent it throughout the summer months from June to September. Basically, the electric division is billed on our transmission peaks.
Yeah.
So, and then also for that's every month, so we have a transmission peak, it's whatever is coincident with the system peak.
yeah.
So if we're able to offset that, there's a dollar value
Yeah.
per KW that we can offset. And then each year we are billed for the entire year off of the system capacity peak, which typically occurs in July or August. So once we hit that number, we're billed for the whole year.
Yeah.
So whatever we can offset that, we actually incur the savings throughout the entire year.
So basically what we do is we know we're gonna have a big day like today, we turn that generator on, it somehow
Correct.
it
Just
takes
takes that
up
chunk of load off of the grid, and then we
Yeah.
aren't billed for it, basically.
Exactly, yeah, makes perfect sense.
it saves Danvers Electric money, and it saves the customers money.
Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, and not to go too quickly to the next item, but would a similar savings be potential with those photovoltaic if we were to put that up and be able to?
Yeah,
offset? 'Cause
exactly.
we would be controlling that as we do with the generators.
Much
so-
we controlled is, it's,
Yeah.
so basically, whenever the solar is generating, it's a nice clear day, we have good sun, whatever that is pulling off of, the
Yeah.
town's capacity requirements, that's exactly the same dollar for dollar
Okay.
savings.
Yeah.
Solar, we're told we can't count on it as a peaking thing.
Yeah.
I mean, one year where on our peak day in August, we had a lot of cloud cover and we lost all the solar across town.
Yeah.
So it was actually reverse.
The opposite.
We had to buy more power on the outside.
Yeah,
So it was very expensive. So we have to be careful that we don't use that for peaking.
yeah.
And Clint, the comment here in the next last paragraph, cost saving is approximately 35,000, that's for that month. is that
That's just for
correct?
the transmission savings for June, correct?
Yeah.
So that, and that changes, I'll update this for the next meeting with,
Yeah.
July and August.
But when you compare saving of 35 to the cost of 285, it doesn't sound like it's effective.
Correct. Well, so
but
we're-
That's a
I-
monthly impact, and the cost
Correct.
is an annual impact.
Correct, right, so that'll be the transmission offset, it'll be a little bit more in July, a little bit more in August.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be, I anticipate we'll be able to capture those. But the actual system peak is really what we're still going after, and that's in the, $300,000 to $400,000 range.
Yeah,
For
so
the
our
annual
savings are typically well above the cost of
Cost of
this
it,
two
yeah,
eighty-five.
Right.
and that's a yearly, what we pay to lease that for the year is basically.
Well,
For the
summer.
season, correct,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just so you know, basically how it works is Tangent, who runs our generators, also helps with our peak savings program. So they're monitoring what's happening at ISO level. So they're alerting us when these peak days are gonna happen.
Yeah.
And, we work with them and Energy New England to kind of figure out what those days are gonna be. So we're tracking on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis
Yeah.
to figure it out. So for instance, this past weekend, it was kind of a surprise, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, we're gonna have these peak days. We called like emergency events. We
Yeah.
made sure we had techs there, we made sure. So we're really actively managing those generators, making sure we're gonna capture those days. It's monitored very,
Yeah.
in depth and detail, so.
All right, so let me just ask, so how many peak days were there in June that we ran the generator?
I think there was, 3 or 4, is that right?
Yeah, somewhere around, there was a handful.
Yeah, it was,
Seriously.
it was right at the end of the month, yep.
Yeah.
And one of them actually no, that was the one in July, this Saturday, the Sunday one. But yeah, so there's like 3 or 4.
So 4 days and what, like 4 hours each episode, is that what we're looking at?
Typically, yep.
Typically 3 to 7, or 4 to 7 type of operation.
Yeah.
And at the end of the season, we'll provide you guys with the same report like we've done for the last couple of years, with all the costs of the whole program and what the cost benefits were of it. So that, and we all know the savings aren't there like they were 3 years ago when the capacity cost was double what it is right now, but we're still saving a lot of money with it.
Any questions? With that, I'll take a motion to accept Clint's report.
I'll move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, town solar options. Who's gonna speak to this? Clint?
Jeff?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Jeff's gonna take the lead with Clint backing him up, Stan, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
So I provided a couple-page memo on some of the solar options we've been looking at for the past couple months. In the past, roughly 5 or 6 years ago, we looked at a landfill solar option, and it's still probably the most viable option in terms of the land area and how much installed capacity we can accommodate. The recommendation from the previous landfill memo was a 1.2 megawatt system on the landfill, understanding that there would be some fill options and opportunity there, and then we put the solar on top of the horseshoe section of the landfill as pictured. That's kind of more of the westward, east, center and westward side of the landfill if you're looking at it from a top-down map. The landfill is off of Route 1 behind Harbor Freight Tools, if you want to think in terms of where it would be. And the recommendation that we want to pursue also is a 1.2 megawatt. Currently, that would be something that we wouldn't have to make major system upgrades at that site, right? That's correct, Clint?
Yeah,
We still have to interconnect, but in terms of updating substations, spending serious capital investment to put say a 3 megawatt system, we wouldn't have to 1.2, wouldn't have to do all that. So that option, we're looking at approximately $1.75 a watt, with interconnection, $2.25 million as a total project cost. The cost of commercial solar has come down significantly since the last memo. I think the last memo we were looking at about $2.50 to $3 a watt. So the price has come down. So that's kind of the main takeaway from that system. We're looking at I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but because the landscape of solar has changed in the past couple of years, the benefit for the town has come down a little bit. I mean, there's no more solar renewable energy credit program. There's only class 1 RECs. So, you know, you used to be able to get a REC of renewable energy generation, approximately $250 a REC. And now it's come down to about $20 a REC. So it's the benefit has significantly decreased. But you know, that's the main takeaway from the benefit savings. Anything else, Clint? What can you say?
I think, yeah, and maybe just if, I don't know, Mike, are you familiar with the REC program in Mass?
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda?
it's
Okay.
more or less, yeah, that basically was the federal government giving us money back, in essence, for producing these types of energy.
True, okay, yeah, okay. But yeah, like as Jeff mentioned, the SREC 2 program was the big one.
You have,
You can just have mine. I'll share with Mark.
Oh, yeah, this one.
here's the next one.
But so yeah, the SREC 2 program closed in 2018, so we're back to the REC 1 program. So yeah, we have the $300-400 a REC in the REC 2. Now it's back to around the $20-30 range. But just something to note is going forward that so currently all of our renewable projects we have, all our power supply agreements that are from renewable sources, we sell the RECs to kind of reap the monetary benefit of it.
Yeah.
Going forward, there might be some state legislature in the work that's probably inevitable that the municipals will be required to have a portion of green renewable energy, so we'll actually retain the RECs going forward.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we
Yeah.
did the analysis, is an offset. We won't have to go to market to secure the RECs.
Yeah,
So if we don't generate our own renewable energy, we're going to go out and buy these RECs.
Yeah.
And I value the RECs around $20. It could be $18. It could be $25.
Right.
Yeah.
But from this chart, if you look at it on the second page, instead of having to go out to buy $20 a REC from the energy we generate, but
Yeah.
it would be savings.
Captured it within.
We capture it. So, we're gonna, for the first 10 years, it'd roughly be 1.3 million kilowatt hours of energy generated from the system. We generate 1375 RECs, and that has a value, as you can see. And then I put a kilowatt hour value to that for the energy generation. After year 10, the panels degrade a little bit, a percent a year, so that's why the value goes down a little bit.
Okay.
And typically, the panels will degrade 20% in the first 30 years, and then they kind of level off. That's the general rule of thumb for PV. So I did that out for all 3 scenarios from the packet. We also looked at the new Smith School rooftop array. In the design, they added some available space in the roof in those three spots. Each picture is one half of the roof, and it's only about 200, give or take, 50 kW of available capacity on the Smith School. So you're looking at a much lower value for the RECs, and but also only a $440,000 system. Rooftop PV is a little more expensive than ground mount PV. You're looking at $2.20 a watt. Just the cost of ballasting and the racks and that kind of thing. Because the Smith School is new and the roof is being designed to accommodate solar, it can easily hold in terms of structural analysis. You don't have to do a new roof. You don't have to add anything to the roof. The one that will go up there will support what's proposed in this drawing. And then if you look at the third array, this is the roof, an aerial view of the high school. The high school is a little more challenging. Of course, it has the load to offset if you put a 250 kW system, but it's got a lot of equipment existing on the rooftop, so there's not as much available space as you might think. There's a large area on the north side of the roof. You'd still have to do a structural analysis of the current roof and whether it can accommodate the panels and snow load. I know that's a big issue with a lot of older buildings. I know some of the buildings have been renovated previously, but some are a little bit older, so you have to have a engineering analysis done on the roof to see whether that can accommodate. So that would need further analysis. moving forward, so.
So, and then also just to mention, so we didn't really dig into the financing, the waivers, we still have a lot of conversations ahead of us to decide how to do that, but so this analysis was basically done, is looking at upfront capital installation cost, spread out over the projected generation for 20 years. So we treat it basically like a 20-year PPA, which is pretty standard with large-scale solar.
And what's PPA?
Power purchase agreement.
Oh, power purchase agreement, okay. All right, I guess the questions I have, and I'm sure it reflects my unfamiliarity with this, but I couldn't understand what's the cash flow here? What's a return on investment? Because that's basically what we're looking at an investment project.
Mhm.
And so, you know, when I think that, I think ROI, you know.
Right.
And to the extent I understood this, I didn't see any.
So the
So,
the.
but I
the
really
RO
admit I probably don't understand. And then, one other difference before I stop asking questions and let you respond is we show a debt service charge on, one of them, but we don't show it on the other two. So I was wondering, you know, why is it different? Okay, again, just my unfamiliarity.
Oh, that just needed to be removed, that, we first added a debt service charge, we were gonna add that into the analysis, and then we decided to take it out, and that,
It's out.
it just didn't get taken up, to carry over, but that, there will be a debt service, we just haven't done the analysis on it yet.
Okay.
So there's numerous financing options right now.
Okay.
So
So.
the purposes of
I
today-
think this is just preliminary.
Yeah.
Get us familiar with what you're working on.
Yes. Yeah.
Not any decisions today or
Correct.
anything like that. Okay.
But our first step is each project individually, like we can do 1, 2, or 3, they're all individual projects.
Yeah.
Are any of these 3 viable for cost? What is our return on investment? So
Right.
if we go to the second page on the landfill, here's our return on investment. We'd be receiving the power from those solar panels on an average of 6.5 cents per kilowatt. Okay, so that's
That's a benefit to us, or
so
that's the
that's what we'd
cost?
be paying, theoretically, that's what those kilowatts would be costing Danvers Electric.
Okay.
Now, we have to weigh that number in versus what are our other sources of power costing?
Right.
Okay, so that's right in the middle of the pack on what things are costing. We know our natural gas contracts are the lowest right now.
Mhm.
The nuclear ones are, they're the next ones up. Right now, stop me if I'm wrong, but this would be our cheapest renewable energy. This is cheaper than any renewable energy that we can buy out there in the market.
That is correct.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, we just signed a solar,
Yeah, the next era
it's
solar.
around 7 cents.
It's 7.
Oh,
So,
And we thought that
this
was
is-
really good.
yeah, so this is competitive with that.
Yep.
so that's the whole idea, is we're trying to frame in, if we had to go out and purchase the power somewhere else, is it comparable? It is, and the cost of PV is dropping. We don't know, there may be those Trump steel tariffs and solar tariffs may impact the solar market. Actually, I'm not even, I mean, that's generally the landscape for solar is changing a little bit in terms of imports and things like that from cheap panels. But, you know, we're looking at around $1.75 a watt installed. So that's the major, like, that can impact
Yeah,
what it
that's
costs.
$1.75 on the.
For the land.
For the landfill, yeah,
I
ground
noticed the
mount.
others were more.
More, yeah.
Yeah.
So the future trend, everything we're seeing, unless something drastically changed in the political climate, that panels are getting less expensive to install.
Okay.
So by the
And then
time
with
we go to put them on,
a lot of
hopefully, what's
came
that?
from China.
Yep.
With this tariff war, they're still going down, or are we starting to make them cheaper in this country?
I believe they're still coming from China.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so there is some upside.
somehow that's gonna happen, but this country has such an emphasis from the government on solar panels.
Mhm.
We just believe either somebody's gonna have to start making them or something's gonna have to happen.
Okay.
So the numbers that are on the landfill one that are shown here, to us, show the landfill is a potentially viable project for Danvers Electric.
Okay.
The second step, once we determine it to be a viable project, something we wanna do, the second step is to begin the permitting process. We need a use permit from the DEP to allow us to put a ground-mounted array on top of that landfill.
How many panels is
2.
1.2 megawatt? Yeah.
How many panels?
Good question.
You can count them up,
Each
Stan.
panel's about 800 watts.
There you go.
Yeah,
No, do the math, right?
so, yeah.
Get the phone out, do the math.
Take 1.2 divided by 800.
Probably 17 or 1800 panels.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of jumps out, I've kind of looked at this a little bit, 3 or 4 years ago, this would have been real good deal. I'm not so sure it's quite as good a deal now as it was
Well,
then.
the panels are less expensive now. The cost per
Yeah.
watt's cheaper now than it was.
Even 2016, it was 275.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as
Installed.
getting the credits.
Oh, the Rex credits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and things like that. I'm familiar with one installation up in Maine. It's a 5 megawatt system up there. And I asked the superintendent, I said, would you do it all over again? He goes, not today, but at the time, it was a good deal. You know? But with that, but I do know that some other municipals are doing some kind of creative things with the financing and like letting the public be part of it and that type of thing. Where, I mean, we could, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure how you want to approach that or.
Well, the first thing is to go through the permitting process. And the permitting process is gonna further identify what this is gonna cost us to do. There's a lot of assumptions, and this is a real preliminary design. We gotta begin that, to find out, is the DP gonna make us do anything to that landfill, to the cap, that kind of thing? All of those things, if we have to do extra work to beef up the landfill to allow this, that would add to this cost. And then it could not be viable, but we're not gonna know anything until we start that process with DEP. And so we believe in the numbers before you, it's enough to, let's kick off the permitting process. Let's see.
Okay, so preliminary ROI says this is viable
Yep.
with what we know today.
Correct. Yep.
And permitting will allow us to get a better handle on costs and thus an ROI.
And the permitting's not gonna be quick, it'll be a 2-year process.
Okay.
That's what I'm predicting. Maybe less, but
And what will it cost us to do that?
we haven't got a number yet, but we'll work on that.
Okay.
We need to get some quotes on that and such. If, at the landfill, at the same time as this, in order to allow this to happen, the town will partake on filling in the horseshoe. So the town needs to fill that horseshoe in, they'll take soil in to fill that up. And then once it's level, once that fill's completed, then we can put the solar array up there.
Okay, yeah, I did note that, have the benefit of having revenue generated from soil filling operation, and not familiar with that. What does that mean?
That means that, right now, the landfill, for many reasons, it was done in a horseshoe with a low area in the middle. It's actually 30-something feet below the outside.
Oh,
So, we believe there's an opportunity there to fill that with the type of soil that has to be paid for to get removed, street sweepings, stuff like that, catch basin cleanings.
okay.
All of that stuff that is relatively clean material, but yet we're all paying to get rid of it.
Okay,
So-
so we would be paid to take it.
Right, the town would be paid to take
Yeah.
it, not Danvers,
Yeah,
right?
I
So the
understand.
town to take it, it would be filled up, they would probably contract with one of the big companies like French or something like that, I'm just saying one name, but, that would bring the
JRM
soil
or
in.
somebody.
JRM, right, fill it up with the soil, cap it over, get it all prepped, ready, and then the solar panel company would come in.
Okay. And obviously then that soil filling operation would have to be conducted with the ultimate goal in mind of supporting a solar.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Any
Right,
idea
but
what
that
they
should-
had to do in Dennis at their landfill? Because there's a big one in Dennis on their landfill.
So I don't believe they had to do anything different to the cap in Dennis. It was a municipal landfill with a DEP approved cap. I don't think they had to do anything to the cap, just put the skids down on top.
So there's a lot more info to come.
Correct. And every landfill's built differently, capped differently, so that's why the DEP looks at them all.
That's a DEP.
Yep, Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay.
Just quickly, I'm just thinking how do we deal with the fact that that won't be property, as you said, that's sort of under the control initially of the municipal light division? Do we have to sign stuff with the town or is it just because we're all in the same, there's no issues with it, we can put electric light stuff over the top of the property that is.
You know, I'll have to check on that, Mike, how would that work?
Yeah.
Because we're proposing this, like, Danvers Electric's gonna own,
Yeah,
it's gonna own the panels and and we're gonna take it.
right.
So would there have to be an agreement with the town, or the town, town's gonna have to authorize that to happen?
Right,
And I think that's all it would be, is the town would have to vote to authorize that.
okay.
The second two options, once again, Smith School, so first step is, let's look at the cost per kilowatt for our return on investment. So it does creep up to almost 7.5 cents near the end of its life. However, it's still in the mid-6s, which puts it right in with the other projects that are out there. So Smith School's a viable project.
Is it SBA reimbursable?
No.
No?
No. Now, not only it's not SBA now, the next step we need to look at, now we need to put our Danvers Electric and town hats on. Okay, this is set up like a purchase power agreement. The town allows Danvers Electric to put these panels on top of Smith School and the power goes right to the grid. And we pay for it, we get the benefit of it for Danvers Electric. That's one option. There is the option to reduce this in size and let it function like a net metering customer. That way the town would be putting the panels up there, just like if Stan had a business and wanted to put some panels on his roof. So we're gonna have to do some analysis on that. Is it better for the town, Danvers Electric as a whole, to have this as a net metering customer or PPA? And that we need to do some work on that question for both this one and the high school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
I mean, hypothetically it'll have load, the building will have load, the panels could offset the load, and benefit this, you know what I mean? And this-
Yeah.
Does that benefit everybody better, or is this better? Which one's better? We haven't done that now.
And we were not required to have the solar panels on there as part of the SBA submission.
No.
Right.
But there are, when designing a roof, you got rooftop equipment, you got skylights.
We've got conduits in there to going up to the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these areas that I identified were already in the plans as
Potential.
potential clear areas, and that's why they're pictured this way.
And is there any extra cost to the town for having that roof capable of supporting
it
this?
was-
No, not these days, with the way that the ballast systems work, they spread the load really.
Okay. All right. So this also, at this point, what we know today looks like a viable project.
That looks like a viable project, and our next step on that would be, we'd like to do the analysis on net metering versus a PPA.
Okay. And is there a permitting issue similar to the landfill or
No.
no?
Nope.
Okay.
No, we'd have to get a building permit for it from the building inspector, and they'd monitor, and there's a permit from the fire department we'd get. Just like any other business in town that wanted to put panels on.
Yeah, and then there's a few administrative things with the state in terms of tracking the production for the renewable goals for the state, but that's minor compared.
Mm-hmm.
So option 3, the high school. So this is our most expensive project. It's also the most difficult. Because that was a renovation, there's a lot of equipment up on those roofs, and we have a lot of different roofs and different height roofs. Clint and Jeff have done a good job at trying to fit some solar panels in there. Before we go any further on that, we need to look at the viability of, can we put panels in all those places and still maintain our equipment? Can we still get to all the rooftop equipment? Can we still make sure we can get the snow off and the roof drains work and all that? So I have a concern about that because they're such little small areas. So we need to take this plan and apply it to real life with our roofing people and building supervisors to see, hey guys, what's gonna happen? What are the effects of putting this on the high school roof? And that could limit some of these blocks, which if it gets smaller, now this one's headed towards a net metering. This could turn into perhaps just that block on the field house and have it be a net metering customer with just that thing on the field house.
And that one area is about 100 kW, just.
Yeah, it's
just-
like-
that's it.
so
So it's
that-
not a huge area, it's not
Right. So this could be, let's just do the field house piece, do it as a net metering customer. So Smith School could come out on the analysis of PPA on that one, do that. This one could be different, say, hey, these aren't gonna work on those other places, but we can put this block on the field house, and that's, and that works as a net metering customer, the best benefit for all. And we're not there yet, that's the next step on that one.
In
So
the
the next
past,
step,
yeah, in the past, I did a project in Salem on the Bentley School, and it was a similar situation where the roof was not able to hold a snow
Right.
load, and they were able to do it. They had to do a roof replacement anyway, but they required a structural analysis, engineers to come in, major roofing project. So you have to be aware that is the path you're going down when you're looking at
Right.
at doing this, because you're talking about snow load, you're talking about racking and ballasts, and the way that they do the system, they do spread the load. You're not putting concrete footings anymore, and you're not adding a ton of load, but the buildings weren't built to add additional, so it's a concern. So.
when we did the high school renovation, the architect did do a check for us and found it not to be economically viable to put panels on the roof of the high school. So we're doing a double check now, just like what Jeffrey's talking about, and Jeffrey's done it before. So this one's gonna take some more, this is not a slam dunk, this takes some more work.
Snow sliding off solar panels is a big issue.
Yeah.
What, do you have to shovel the roof now as it is or anything?
So-
Without panels?
We have to shovel the roof at certain times, such as when say you get a lot of snow up there, and then we get rain coming in afterwards, we have to get up there and shovel the drains to make sure the water can drain off. That's when it gets heavy. We have a certain pounds per square foot that we know what the roofs can hold, and if water gets into the snow and it gets over that limit, we have to get up there and shovel and snow blow. So we have been up on the high school with snow blowers and shovels before.
And with the new roof being put on Highlands, it didn't make sense to have it.
Yeah, the Highlands roof, what we're finding on that project is when they renovated the school, they didn't replace the roof deck. We still have an old gypsum roof deck underneath the roof on that with multiple layers of old, they didn't tear the roof off that building when they renovated it. So, yeah, we can barely get a new roof on that thing,
Okay.
never mind get panels on it. Riverside's up to do the roof. We'll take a look at Riverside. However, we're worried we're gonna find the same conditions on Riverside. We're gonna find an old gypsum roof with some tar layers and different tar layers and patch it, and so we're concerned it's not gonna work there. But we're gonna keep looking. So our recommendation to high school is, let's go look at the operational viability of putting these panels up there. That would be our next step. After that would be structural.
So more study needs to be done.
On that one, yep.
Oh, and all of them.
Well, on all of them, yeah.
So nothing is asked of us today.
Nope, we're giving you guys enough. And the biggest thing is, the biggest thing today, the milestone is, are any of these economically viable? And it looks like the first two are. Would you guys agree?
Yep. As the numbers, Clint and I were we were surprised that it was around 6, and keep exploring it. We talk about it. We look at we run the numbers. So
Yeah. Okay, I think in terms of ROI, and I don't see that here. Is that the way you're thinking of it, or are you looking at it as a power source and what it costs us per
We're looking-
kilowatt hour?
Yeah, we're looking at what slice of the pie is that gonna contribute to our portfolio, essentially, and what is that gonna cost us over the long term?
Because-
So versus going out to market, if we wanted a 20, if we went, put a request out for a 20-year solar contract, we would probably be getting, it would be 7 with a 2% escalator, so at the end of the 20-year, you're probably, well over a dime. So with this, we look at it as a power supply resource, we're looking at a nice flat 20-year contract.
Because eventually we are gonna, the legislation is coming down, but we're gonna have to have a chunk of our portfolio as class 1 renewables. Not talking like hydro up in like solar, wind, real renewables. How much is that gonna cost Danvers Electric to purchase those recs? And from all sides, we track, E&E tracks it, we track it, the legislation coming down, it's coming down, it's gonna impact us, and we're trying, we're already close, we're ahead of a lot of other MLPs. But it's gonna increase it's gonna be an increase every year of how much we're gonna have to have that chunk
Yeah,
from
how much of
renewables.
it has to be renewable?
Yeah, and so, we're trying to position ourselves where we're gonna be best able to meet those requirements, and do it in an economic way.
What is the current requirement?
There isn't one.
The light plans.
For life.
There's draft legislation right now on what the percentages are gonna be.
And they're negotiating what the requirements are gonna be.
Correct.
And there's a lot of negotiations.
What is our percentage of renewables now?
Well,
Define.
get back to you on that, Stan. Exact number. Part of the legislation they're discussing is grandfather in the nuclears, right?
Yeah,
Is
so
it
that's,
carbon
do
free?
you
So that's-
count the nuclear as renewable? Do you count the nuclear as carbon free? So then we've renewable, then we have carbon free. And so the nuclear classifies for carbon free, so there's two different thresholds there.
Right.
So actually, so for the next meeting, you definitely can do we'll do a pie chart for you guys on the percentage of the fully renewable that we have, the percentage of nuclear, the percentage that we get from fossil fuels. We'll give you that pie chart next
I
time.
think we saw that
Wind
at the finance
too,
committee.
because
Well,
we have some.
you guys saw the one that with all the
7-layer,
different
yeah.
kinds, we need to
Yeah.
break it into those 3 categories,
Yeah.
because those 3 categories are what the legislature's gonna talk about.
Yep.
Show you where we are right now, percentage wise.
If you could do that, and then basically give us what what Danvers, I know we have a good carbon-free
Yeah.
footprint, Danvers Electric does. But then now we do have some wind
Yep.
things going on here. And if we do something with the solar, that would be another one. What the costs are, because, clearly the nuclear option is the least expensive. Just to get an idea of, and maybe if we could see where we fit, with others too. I'm not sure what some of the other, like what Peabody's doing or anything like that, just, I guess, we wanna be in the ballpark,
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be something we really need.
Absolutely, I think it's a good thing, we'll work on that for the next meeting.
The first time I've ever been at a meeting where describing something as the nuclear option is actually a good thing.
Well, that's still a matter of opinion, too.
That's the jury's.
At least not the worst thing
Yes,
possible.
yes, not Armageddon.
Any other questions, guys?
No, I'm good.
So you'll get back to us on that one then, Dave.
Yep, yes, you're welcome.
Okay, great. Okay, next item on the agenda. Dave, for the other guys, if you could explain what the DPU 1975 is.
Sure, I printed out copies for the board members this is on the website, on the DPU website. So this is
I went looking
DPU.
for it and didn't find anything here.
Oh, yep, it's all up there, 19/75. So this is, back in February of 2018, Mr. Zuberek, he took the comments that he brought to town meeting and turned it into a petition that he had a number of our customers sign. Copy of that is attached here, and he sent it into the DPU with their concerns that they wanted certain items investigated. Those include the items which we talked about at town meeting, and we've talked about at this meeting numerous times, and we've talked about at the selectmen numerous times. Those items include the advance contribution that the Danvers Electric made towards its retirement liability, the money that Danvers Electric has spent to maintain its right-of-ways, the money Danvers Electric has spent for intersection improvements, and the loan for the water meters. Town manager he's working with town council and Chris Pollard to respond to the DPU's investigation. We're just gonna provide to them the same answers that we gave to town meeting, same answers that we give to finance committee and the selectmen on how each item was addressed and how the funds from Danvers Electric were used. And once that letter gets written, I should be able to give you guys a copy to look at. I will say, I know the town manager and the selectmen are not happy about the costs of that. Substantial legal fees and staff time is being put into that again, for questions that were previously asked and answered, and, but that's ongoing.
Okay, so let me ask, has there been a request for discovery, a technical conference, or evidence, or a request for our audits, or anything like that?
It's
At
the
this
request, for DPU said they're going to investigate this.
Yep.
And so we're sending in the answers and all the backup to them right now. Here it is.
Okay,
It's just to make their investigation as easy as possible.
okay. This does come with a significant cost to the electric division. What is our, what are the viable options for cost recovery?
Town council's reviewing those right now.
I mean, it really wouldn't be fair to hit all of the customers for Danvers Electric for this. Maybe, is it an option to put an assessment on the 39 people that signed this petition?
Don't know yet.
I have not seen the list until right now of who the people were. I really don't wanna look at it, I probably know some of them. But, is it like, perhaps Dave, you could find out, are these 39 people in fact customers of Danvers Electric? I don't know that. Are some of them industrial, or commercial accounts? Or are they all residential accounts? Maybe we could send them a letter and give them a chance to opt out if we're gonna pass along the cost to them in the form of an assessment or something, if we're allowed to do that.
So the petition says that each one of them is a Danvers Electric customer.
Well, it says that, but
It says that, and they all have a Danvers address. So that's all we know right now.
but if it's like a husband and wife, it's really one meter. I don't know.
Yeah, there is multiple names at the same address, so. Yeah, we'll look, Peter hasn't looked to make sure, see if they're all customers or not. They just said, it says they are.
Any idea what these allegations are gonna cost the division? I mean, you're looking at legal response by attorneys. You're looking at, these are just allegations, more or less unfounded allegations.
Yeah, we don't know yet, we'll know shortly.
You guys have anything on this?
No, those are good questions. I'm just seeing it, so I haven't really thought of any questions.
I mean, I really wouldn't wanna pass the cost along to the 39 people unless they had a chance to opt out of it. You know what I mean? But maybe we can find out if they are in fact customers. There are consequences, you know, everything in life comes down to choices and problem solving. And there are consequences for your choices. You know, a lot of people, when they sign something, they don't know what they're getting in for. You know, these things could have all been addressed at a different time, and I believe they were. Maybe not to someone's satisfaction, but it is what it is. So, I mean, perhaps Peter could have somebody from his staff take a look and see, are these in fact all customers of Danvers Electric?
Yep, we can do that.
And then should we decide at some future point for an assessment, if we can do that? You know, I really wouldn't want to stiff all of Danvers Electric customers for this, because this is an unnecessary cost. So, Peter, if you have somebody, and then keep track of, in anything the town is doing on this too, to keep track of, you know, what the costs are.
The town manager is.
Oh, yes, okay,
Yep.
good, beautiful,
He's leading that.
okay. So, do you guys have anything on this? I think I'm pretty good on this.
I'm good. No, I'm reading the order from the Department of Public Utilities, and so trying to understand it a little bit. It appears as though the DPU is obligated to conduct the investigation when the request is made. There doesn't seem to be any, it doesn't indicate that there's any ability for them to make an initial determination on top of the allegations to have any merit. So I would say that the fact that there is an investigation would not indicate in any way that the allegations made in the application or the submission do have any merit. But I think that the chair's comments have merit and certainly should be explored. I'm not 100% there yet. I think probably, even if we were allowed to do that, but depending upon how this proceeds and to what extent it is a significant expense for what ultimately determines to be a relatively frivolous endeavor, I think again there's merit to those things.
So I guess, just if we could, you know, just if Peter could have somebody from your staff, are those in fact 30, and like if it's a husband and wife at the same address, that's only, you know, just how many meters? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we'll keep tabs on what this costs, and if they say we might be able to recover our costs, I know we can recover our costs because that's just part of doing business, but it's really not fair to do it to all of the customers. If we can in fact pass along an assessment or something, if it's found to be, you know, these allegations were, you know, just unfounded. You know, and I would certainly like say, maybe we can send them a letter saying, you know, you recently signed a petition, whatever it was, you know, and give them a phone number to call if they want to get out of it, and let them know that there's a possibility that there'll be an assessment for us to recover costs, if we can do that. And the other thing, Dave, would be, just keep me posted on whether the DPU wants some sort of discovery, or a technical conference or evidence or
Sure.
anything like that.
Yep.
And the other board members too. Just keep us
Sure will.
updated on that. And just keep the meter running on water costs,
You got it.
okay? With that, Dave, why don't you talk to us about the efficiency audit and the financial policy?
Yeah, so for this meet, on the financial policies, we don't have those quite as far along as we expected. So actually for Mike's benefit, so when we did our efficiency audit, it identified 5 different financial policies that we wanted to work and get established on our board. And they're listed. Do you guys all have the dashboard? Does Mike got that too?
Yeah, I do.
Under Baker Tilly Audit Financials.
Yep.
Similar to what you did on the finance committee for the town, a little different is one, an investment policy. The reserves that we have not been invested in an interest-bearing accounts, and we wanna change that. And so we wanna establish the policy on just how we're gonna investigate that. That one is furthest along. I thought we'd have a draft today, but we gotta meet with Joe Collins again and the finance director and go over some ins and outs of that. The reserve policy, we've worked on that one. Clint's worked on that as far as how much we should have on reserve, what's our policy. The unrestricted cash policy, and actually, all of these policies, we're gonna be able to identify each one of our accounts that has money in it. What's it called? And what are the parameters for what can it be used for and what restrictions does it have? We want to have that on each of those accounts so that everybody understands it. Rate stabilization policy, that's the policy. Okay, are we going to have an account so that if we had rate spikes in 1 year or in certain months, we could use that account to level off those? That one, we haven't really done too much work on it. And then to actually establish the reserve accounts. So actually, once we come up with the names and what they're all gonna be called, we want to establish those accounts on Peters Financials. So all of this is in progress. I'm sure we'll have drafts of the first couple at the next meeting for you guys. And it's at the top of our list to be working on. It got bumped a little bit over the last month.
Okay, one comment if I may, Dave.
Sure.
I've been through here for all of the Baker Tilly
Yep.
gyrations. And I'm certainly in favor of this as a general going forward.
Yep.
Have we thought about what are the risks to us in terms of tying our hands by defining, they say like up to 5 or 6 different accounts and separate reserves and all, where we basically kind of have 1 or at most 2 at the moment, really 2 at the moment. We have rate stabilization and we have our depreciation, and that pretty much is it.
Yep.
And I guess cash on hand would be an unrestricted thing. I'd just like to sow that seed that we
Oh, yeah.
make sure we don't tie our hands, that we have these things so finitely defined that if something happens that one account is insufficient to handle, we can't use another reserve account.
Couldn't agree more. And one option presented to you folks could be leave it like it is, unrestricted cash, the stabilization, and the depreciation. Here's our 3 accounts. At the very least, we'll have names on those that everyone understands, and we'll
Yeah.
know what the restrictions are for each one. That's gonna be probably option A. And then here's, if we tweak that, here's if we go further, option B and option C.
Okay, all right.
We're doing the same analysis like on the free cash when Baker Tilly gave us, 230 days of this option, there's another option, 250 days. It's like, whoa, wait a second here. We're drilling into those 2 options and also getting down the calculation for you guys. Well, what is that actual calculation number of days? We wanna make sure they did it right and we're doing it right.
Right, and I agree, there was fuzziness in the definitions, so that you get these different calculation numbers, and then also the definition of what they can be used for,
Right.
so.
We don't believe them fuzzy unless we're doing Jeff's solar projects right now. Those are fuzzy right now, Jeff.
But we're
That's
all
what we need
in.
you
Help me out
for.
here.
We need you for that,
Help me
though.
out, jeez.
We need you for
Throw
that
me under the
forward-thinking,
bus.
fuzzy stuff.
Yeah,
Drives
right.
us. We want black and white.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, we always start with fuzzy, but we
Yeah.
work toward black and
We'll
white.
work towards black and white, right?
Yeah, okay. No, I'm fully in favor of this, and I think I've been clear on that, but I also wanna make sure we don't tie our hands
Excellent point.
unnecessarily.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have for that.
But,
Is there any other questions?
well, my typical thing would be tie in your hands. I mean, that's what transfers are for.
Yeah, well, right.
You know what I
Just
mean?
the-
What's the process to untie? Yeah.
The policies would include that.
Right.
Include, here's what you do if you need the flexibility.
Yep.
Yeah,
What are the rules?
I asked you the last time, Dave, at the last meeting, the chances of creating like a betterment fund.
Yep.
And my thinking behind that is, like, say if we had something to, like, say, for example, grant money became available to remove telephone poles and do it, remove phone poles on High Street, for example, or something. If we had some sort of fund, a betterment fund like that, so we could take advantages of grant money, something like the electric car charging stations, and is that possible?
So I'm working on it, and I'm learning more about under Chapter 164.
Yeah.
I'm getting really into the nitty gritty, and Pete's even learning a couple things
Yeah,
here about when we're in our operational, make sure we know what we can spend money on in the operational money and what we can't. Then below the line in our profits, what can we spend profit on and what can we not spend profit on? Pete and I are learning what the actual specifics of that are, and we'll be able to talk to you about that. That will be part of the discussion at the next meeting.
Okay, my whole thing would be, it would be nice to have something, to take advantage of opportunities.
Yep.
That's just the whole thing about it. Should we decide to do something, it's there.
Right. For example, our payment in lieu of taxes that we give to the town, that's kind of like the betterment thing you're talking about. And we've done this payment in lieu of taxes the same way forever. Almost every municipal electric I've talked to does it differently. They all have different formulas on how they compensate the municipality where they're located. So we're learning a lot about that.
But the ones that I've talked to, they all do something.
They all do something.
They all do something for betterment in the community and that type of thing too, as well. Okay, thanks.
Including putting banners up.
Oh, yeah, Christmas lights, all.
Right, Christmas lights, it's on the list. The
Oh, yeah.
lights, the banners,
Yeah.
the what do you call them, the family festival banners?
Yep.
All of Mark's favorite stuff.
Yeah. If, Mike, have you seen, we had a Baker Tilly audit, have you seen the report?
I did see the
Do you
Baker,
have
yeah.
one? We could
I
get
don't
one.
have one, but I did see it, so, yeah.
Stephanie, could you see that Mike gets one of those?
Sure.
Thanks.
How about the regular Melanson Heat electric audits, have you seen that?
I've never seen the Melanson Heath one, so.
Send it, give him that too.
Steph, while you're at it, why don't we give them the DPU report too? So each year we file our annual report with the DPU,
Yeah,
and actually, that you'll probably find most interesting reading.
I'm sure it'll be.
It's get out of the accounting stuff in it, but it really.
Don't read it before you go to bed. Early in the morning with lots of coffee.
If you want to know something about Danvers, it's right there in the DPU report. Like how much how many meters, everything's like bang right there, and it's all
there.
tied in, so
And
it's
only
accurate.
that thick.
If I can read
Is
it.
it on one side of the standard Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac mortgage or the other side?
Yeah, right.
The interesting line
It's
for me.
easier than that.
Okay.
It does bring it alive for any reader.
I think it's easier than mortgage requirements. Those things, they go in circles.
Okay, thanks for that. So you have more to come on that?
More to come on next meeting, Stan, yep.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Mark, if you could give us an engineering report, what's going on?
So we're finally wrapping up Center Street. I know it's been a long time coming, but this is a major project. Mike, just so you're aware, it was reconductoring from Center Street, right at Holton,
Yep.
all the way down Center to the 95 overpass there.
Yep.
So that was eliminating thousands of feet of bundled cable with spacer cable. So
Good.
we're finally wrapping that up. So we're cutting over Deal Lindo Way this Thursday. and then we only have Prince Place remaining. And then once we complete that, we have a handful of transformers, so I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks, that should be hopefully complete. Weather dependent, obviously, personnel dependent, we can get the support over there. We've been sort of battling a little bit with that. With regards to the Water Street project, this is another major project that we're looking to upgrade. We're looking to reconductor Water Street there with spacer cable. We're also looking to add another tie, which I'll refer to as sort of the island area, you know where the Sunnyside Bowl is?
Yeah.
That area, so we can get some redundancy down there, and we can actually offset some of the loading when need be. So that project is underway. We have one pole set remaining, and then we can start framing the pole. So those are really the two of the larger overhead construction projects that we have up and going right now. So those are, again, Center Street, we're just wrapping up. It'd be nice to get that completely situated, and then we can jump right on to sort of the nitty-gritty on Water Street. We've also been doing a lot of thermal scanning of the system, so that's where we go out there in the infrared, and we look for hot spots on the system so we can make sure that we take care of these issues before they become a problem at night or in the day, and it just becomes an emergency. So we want to be more proactive to do that. We've been also changing out the batteries on all the SCADA-mates, the reclosers. They've been over 5 years old now. So, you know, like the SCADA-mates, we have like roughly 30 SCADA-mates. We have over 20 reclosers. So we've been upgrading all those. We've been doing a lot of breaker testing at the stations to comply, NER compliance. So we've been pretty busy with all those aspects of the construction world at this point. I don't know, and obviously, as Dave stated, the next session, I'm gonna go over the capital project, where I'll go over every single thing in more detail specifically, but those are sort of the higher limit projects that I wanna sort of just talk about. And also, with regards to the control house, we're at a standstill still. We're waiting on TRC, so TRC is an engineering firm. We're doing an assessment, feasibility study to either upgrade the existing transformers that we have at our main substation, which is on Bow Street.
Right behind where I grew up.
Oh, okay, yep. So you're familiar, obviously, where it is then. So, we're expecting that to be completed end of August, hopefully like August 27th, I think was the date that we were given that we should have that study. And that's whether we look to either potentially add a fourth transformer in the future, or whether we just upgrade the 3 existing ones. So we're supposed to be getting that information very shortly. Once we have that, then we can proceed with the control house, you know, whether we need to add another panel in there, or whether we're just gonna be sticking with upgrades of the transformer. So once we get that information, and that's kind of why we're at a standstill on the control house. And that's kind of where we're at, just from a high level of some of the bigger projects that are going on at this point.
Very good. Any significant outages?
Well, we did have one on the 21st, I think it was Sunday the 21st, which impacted, what did that impact? That impacted, a lot
The
of.
one down in the port?
Yeah, that was the BJ's, that was, that general area. River Run Condos is where it actually was a major impact on. One of the one of the switch gears had an internal failure at night. So that was something that we had to take care of. So that happened, I believe it was around 5 at night, Sunday, and then, you know, they re-energized. There was no problem. They didn't see anything. One of our reclosers basically operated and it locked out. Everybody patrolled. They didn't see anything of any significance. You know, they checked all the equipment, everything of that nature. They re-energized, and then about 30 minutes later, there was another report of an issue over at River Run. They sort of went to that area. That's when it was noted that we had an internal failure on a switchgear. So in that whole procedure, in order to replace that, so that led us into the morning hours of Monday. And other than that, I don't know if you've had any other.
And on that,
Issues.
on Monday, we did receive a couple calls saying what great work
Yeah,
the team out in the field
absolutely.
had done, and how impressed they were with the work that was done, and how quickly it was
That was a
restored.
huge endeavor, especially when you're not planning for it.
So it was our equipment that failed?
Yes, it was one of our switch gears. Yep. And that actually serves, there was 11 transformers in River Run, so there's a significant amount of people in that complex.
Was it something from overheating?
I don't think it's ever been really determined. I mean, I know it's an older switchgear, something that we would probably be looking to change out in the future there, so, but I don't know if it's actually been determined. Again, it was an internal failure, so unless they really just kind of untank everything, it's hard to say what realistically happened inside.
My other thoughts here is perhaps too, you could get together with Mike at some point in time, take him around, show him the system.
Sure.
Have you you've probably done it before, haven't you?
It's been a long time. I do remember being taken around 20 years ago, so.
And he doesn't drive around like we do like this yet. He will soon, looking up.
We were doing the, what we went from the regular lines to the little one that has the diamond.
Oh, that's a spacer cable.
Spacer
Yep.
cable, so
Yep.
I was brought around to see how the spacer cables would work and the whole process that would happen with that, so we're talking 20 years of.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think since I was probably 8 years old and snuck into the substation
lucky
behind
you're still
Bow Street.
here,
Yeah, Bow Street, have I ever been in that one, so.
Yeah. We put a lot more of that up
That was who it
over,
was.
over the years,
Yeah.
that's for
Yeah,
certain.
it was
That
a much smaller substation back then.
Yeah, that was when we started probably getting a lot more of that up, so you'll see
Yeah.
a lot more of that construction now
Yeah.
throughout the town, which is a much more reliable.
Yeah.
Circuit.
Mark, too, maybe you can get him some electrical prints for the system, and maybe, there's some good reading for you, telephone pole report.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another good one.
That was always my favorite thing as a selectman when we
Oh,
had to move a
yeah,
pole, that
I
was-
remember, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So we are creating a lot of double poles right now, but obviously it's for a good reason, right,
Yeah.
with these capital projects, but, so.
Perfect.
Okay,
I went through this last year.
thank you, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you can take them around too at some point and just show them everything, that'd be
You
good.
got my,
But you know what, I'm gonna ask you a question, while I did have an opportunity to go up and check out the generator.
Yep, on
During one of
Saturday.
those hot days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
One of the things I saw up there, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I thought I saw, you had 2 extra breakers up there that are unused. In the, I'm not talking about the generators now, I'm talking in the substation.
Wood Electric?
Yeah, there's two empty slots. You could
Oh,
put
yeah, feeder
Okay.
wise, okay.
Yeah, so I saw that, and I thought I saw, and you had the transformers isolated with the tie breaker open. Okay, and it seemed to me like I saw one of the, if I saw it correctly, I thought I saw one phase out of balance on one of them. The other ones were pretty balanced, but one of them, on 2 of the phases, you know, much higher load on 2 of the phases than there was on one.
Yeah,
That just
I mean-
jumped out at me during a peak
We would have to
day.
look, but I mean, like anything, obviously we try to do feeder balancing,
Yeah,
but it all depends on what your ground relay set at. But obviously we try to do the feeder balancing, but anytime you tap a single phase transformer, like say you tap a 25 kVA transformer, you're adding 10 amps right now on one of those phases. And if all of a sudden you just keep tapping that same phase, it's just gonna keep adding on more.
yeah, I don't know, it
So
just looked to me.
I can look at that, I don't
I did, it just looked to me,
any
I just saw it real
issues in
quick.
general,
but,
Did Bobby take you inside to show you? Is that
Oh,
what it
yeah,
was?
and
Okay.
another thing I saw, you have the breakers that you can rack out, you got the little motorized.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sled there. But you know what, I was thinking about this afterwards, I didn't pay attention to this, but, is there only one way in and out of there to those breakers? Like if you were racking one out and you were on the
Yeah, I mean,
side.
the back side of the cubicle area is where the conductors, but yeah, that's where you rack them out.
Right, where you rack them
One
out,
side,
but I walked in from the gate side into that vault. And if you were racking out a breaker, it would be in the way. Is that the only way to get out of there? You know what I'm saying? Or,
I probably have to see what you're referring to as far as
Well,
trying to, because you're talking about, you went inside the metal clad?
yeah,
Inside, yeah.
yeah, and I saw where the breakers were, that
Yeah.
you had the motorized sled there to unrack the
Yeah.
breakers.
I mean, there's 2 entrances on both sides.
Oh,
of
there
it.
is on either
Yes,
side, oh, so
on
you
the metal
could, like,
clad.
if something
Oh,
happened,
yeah.
you could get out the other way?
Correct,
Oh,
yep,
okay, I
yep,
wasn't sure of that.
there's 2
I did-
entrances,
I have to ask you about that. And the other thing I did notice kinda, the generators. what I wanted to see was how it was phased in.
Hmm.
And when I went up there that day, they had to manually tie one in, the first one. The second one, they did automatically. And the outputs on those were, I noticed, a buoy configuration, brown, orange, yellow, so a 480 volt output, then to that transformer.
Yep.
And that transformer, what is the
That
second,
that steps it up now, so that
To-
steps it up
right.
to the
What, 13?
22,860, yeah.
what, to what?
That's going on the 23 kV system, so it's 22,860 is what our 23 kV line is.
Okay, and so what kind of load was there on that? I mean,
So they're two 2 megawatt units, and they run at like 80%.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at roughly, at 80% of your 3.2 total, I think it's somewhere in the realm of, is it 90 amps? Somewhere like that?
okay. Yeah, but it was funny, the second unit, when they put the second unit on, that one was okay too, but they were talking about doing this all remotely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were, and I guess they had issues where maybe one was kicking off, they had a hard time, so.
It had to be manually synced
Right,
in,
yep.
the day I was there.
Yeah, so when we have people there, we're making sure that we're noting that, because then obviously we can be backfilling them for that, because that is part of what the bid called for, was that they could remotely dispatch these generators.
Yeah, so
And
what time are you
obviously-
starting the thing today?
So it's gonna start today at 3, I believe, and
3 to
until
7 or
7,
so.
yep.
Yeah.
And if we have to man the site, then we make sure that we account for our hours on sort of a billable work order, and then we'll
Yeah.
work with Tangent after the fact.
Yeah, and the transformer belongs to them?
Correct, yep, they wheeled it in, they brought it in, yep.
Why, that station's called Wood Station, who's Wood?
Wood Electric,
Yeah.
you know what, I don't even know the real history behind why it was Wood Electric.
CN Wood owned that building right there in the, there's a building.
They did?
Yeah, it was called CN Wood.
The same CN Wood Company in Woburn?
I don't know that, I just know it was CN Wood was the building right there, so it was Wood Electric. You know,
Well-
that's why I would call it that.
Why,
Mike, do you
There
concur?
was a business there, CN Wood,
Back behind the,
Oh, right out front, right on Route 1.
right
Right
on
on
Route
Route
1
1.
of the industrial
At the
park.
industrial
I think
park.
that
kind of
first
across from the
building was
village green
CN
a little
Wood.
bit?
oh, I don't know if I remember CM Wood being there. but-
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
was my answer.
There's your answer, Stan.
Well,
Because we
I
can
guess
do-
my next question is, why aren't the substations like named after former directors of the division?
I don't know that,
Yeah.
No, I mean that,
yeah.
We do have sort of weird, like, this one's the Southwick one, this one's the, we don't know.
Yeah,
where
there's
they-
like,
I mean,
there's
Southwick
like
makes sense, but
islands,
it's-
Yeah, well,
You know-
Southwick is Southwick neighborhood,
Yeah,
which
but-
Southwick is a historically, that's a name, a Danvers name of
Yeah,
somebody.
they owned the
who's-
property
Yeah.
back in the day, but.
But,
Yeah,
before
they're all
Wood.
geographically after the neighborhood.
yeah.
I'm just thinking maybe, some former directors of the division, from its infancy, maybe they should be named after somebody.
Cool.
The Nimblets was a big name in directors, we could have the Nimblet, the child,
You can have a Pickerini station,
Yeah.
He said former, right,
They
that's how she had it done.
said directors, I don't.
Oh, he's a director.
Well,
That's what my title is, isn't it?
He's a director.
I suppose,
Yeah.
yeah.
These are
I thought-
usually-
I thought Stan was talking to Mark for a second.
These are usually posthumous, so don't be in such a rush.
Yeah,
Unless
right.
it's from Larry, it's either posthumous or for Larry Crowley, those are the only ways we do it.
Oh,
So-
jeez, Larry's gonna get one. Don't forget, Larry had the seat where Mike
Yeah,
is sitting
that's
right there. That was Larry's seat for years.
He's already at Endicott, we don't need to name anything else after Larry.
Like the one down on Corner Street, it's called Corner Street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all the geographical name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cause the high school, one's high school, right, is the,
It's just called Cabot Road,
It's Cabot
so, yeah.
Road.
It's the one
Yeah,
that's.
it's Pond Street right here, yeah.
That's the one behind the mall, that's a little.
That's Northland.
Northland.
Oh,
Confuses
maybe-
us all.
Yeah, I can never
Maybe
remember
we ought to
that
have
one.
some little dedication ceremonies
go.
with little plaques and, named after somebody who did something historic for the division. I don't know, that's,
How about the EV charging stations?
how about it? I was gonna ask about those,
Commission
what are we,
one, yeah.
we're gonna talk about that, Dave?
Give it a nice name.
Okay, with that, thanks, Mark, for your
Oh, yeah,
report.
absolutely.
And, Dave, why don't you give us an update on things?
Sure, our new line worker, Dan Stanton, has started. I think we talked about him briefly. He came to us from Grid. He has a lot of experience in underground, which is good. We don't have a lot of that, so he's bringing a wealth of underground experience to us, and he's actually gonna have to catch up on some of the aerial stuff, but we're pleased to have Dan here, and he'll work his way up through, hopefully, the line worker levels. We did do engineering interviews. Clinton Mark did, with the assistant town manager, did interviews for the engineer. We have found a candidate which has a lot of merit. Seems like there's some concern with the assistant town manager on that person. We're asking to see what's the concern is. We're not sure. We don't know. But we think we have a good candidate, and hopefully we can push that forward. And I will tell you that the engineering candidates there weren't very many qualified applicants, very few, so they're hard to get right now. So the fact that we have someone with the right education and the right skills for Danvers Electric, we're very pleased that we got someone. Hopefully we can get this person here. We're glad to see that the signals are up. It's summer in Maple. So we talked about before, we're gonna put them on flash for a couple weeks and get everyone used to the signals there. I did talk about this at the staff meeting yesterday. It's very important. People that have been going down 62 for 30 years are not expecting a signal to be there. They need to see that flash for a while. I did just a second ago send Eric Richard an update. When are you thinking of putting them on the full signal? And we need to work with the police chief and such on that. So it'll be shortly, and we'll have a police presence is our plan, to let them know in advance so they can have a police presence out there when we turn them on. So it's imminent. They're all ready to turn on. We just gotta flip the switch.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah.
I nearly had an accident in Ohio, exactly that situation, a new traffic signal.
Yep.
And I was on the road that historically had the right of way, and I almost caused an accident with a pickup truck coming, who had a green light. I liked seeing the electronic sign that said new traffic signals, and as soon as that went up, they started flashing, and then the new traffic signal sign went away.
Yeah.
I would recommend putting back that
Yeah,
new traffic signal.
I believe that's the
electric
plan, is put
sign.
that back, is to put one back. So
Okay, I don't
I'll
know why
confirm
it was-
that.
I don't know why it was taken away, I mean,
That one belonged to the contractor,
oh.
and so
okay,
now if to put one now that we'll have to use one of the town ones
Okay,
to do that.
but I would recommend that, and actually, I would recommend keeping it there for maybe a couple of months, because, like you say, people have been doing it for 30 years, and people come, they might come through there once a month. So there would be a percentage of people who, yeah, maybe it's been there for a month, but they haven't been through in a month.
Sure.
I think, we're doing it for safety, and I think that would be an added prudent safety step.
Yep.
While we're on that subject, are there going to be lane lines put down? I was surprised.
Oh yeah, they have to do all the line painting. So
Okay, I
that,
was surprised they weren't done last year when,
So-
the paving was done, the
so
lanes.
if you notice,
could have been
we did temporary lane lines based on not having a signal. We didn't want to put all the lanes in there because they didn't have the right signals to do it.
marked. Okay.
Now the contractor should be here anytime to put permanent lanes down.
Okay.
But we worked with the traffic engineer and the police chief on the temporary lines to put them down in the safest manner possible.
Okay.
There was some discussion not even having that island without the signals, so it was all carefully thought out where those temporary lines would go, and now the permanent lines are coming right in. They're imminent.
All right, there,
They could be out there today or tonight doing them, but I'm not sure. I
okay,
haven't heard yet, but they're imminent.
okay,
But we had to wait for the signals to get up.
okay. I guess I don't understand why we couldn't have had a left turn lane, but,
It-
that's
I-
okay.
we could get into the nitty-gritty, it was all.
No point of it.
Yeah, right.
It's moot.
Yep.
Okay, at least it was well thought out.
It was a
That's
thought
good.
out decision, right, with a lot of people involved,
Okay.
with
I'm
all the
happy.
manner of safety.
I'm happy. Thank you.
On the electric vehicles, so we know we have our electric vehicle is here. The charging station that is used for that vehicle and will be used for Danvers Electric is installed in the back parking lot. The one on the Elm Street parking lot is in. That one's there. And plans are all in progress for the electricians to put the one in at Town Hall. Hasn't happened yet. Hobart Street, Jeff, is that in, or when's that going in?
It's not going in, it's going in, but we have to do the make-ready work on it
Okay,
as well.
so we got a little bit
have to
more
put a
work to do.
cabinet in, and a little mini cabinet, for that one, because it's, we're gonna make ready so we can put additional stations there in the future, so we're gonna do a little bit more electrical work at that, some trenching from the pole down to the spots there. You know, right now it'll be for two electric vehicles, but potentially with some development going on, we could expand it to one or two more stations there, so we're putting a larger service in, so.
Good.
Are any of them operational yet?
The one,
Back here is.
Back here is operational.
back here is operational, yeah.
Water Street's not?
No, we don't have actually that one put in yet.
Oh, I thought it was there. The sign-
So the biggest update with with those stations is we're waiting on a $25,000 grant, and they have, the grant requirements, require us, to hold off on the actual ordering of the station, the unit itself, until we are awarded the grant. We can do the make-ready on the project.
Okay.
This is confirmed, I can do the make-ready, we can get the trenching in, I can put the electrical, but when the grant, and this is supposed to happen in a matter of days, this grant award. I've talked to the program grant people. This is just this wasn't a requirement in the past for the previous iteration of this, but it's $25,000, it's worth waiting a week or two.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the story with that. I will.
That's why.
That's why, and so it's a couple of wrinkles. Our installer Voltrek is working with us on that. They've done many projects with this grant, and so they're making sure we comply with that, so we don't lose out on that $25,000. I mean, if it was a couple thousand, maybe the benefit wouldn't be, but 25 I think is worth waiting a few.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, and the other thing, we do plan on having that Chevy Bolt parked up at Town Hall at a station there. We're waiting to do a wrap to advertise Danvers Electric, advertise the electric vehicle program. We're working with a local installer to get that design finalized. We're actually just finalizing it.
What do you mean by wrap?
Like, you know, what's the best
One
way?
that cut the.
It's gonna have like logos on the car.
Logos on the
It's
car.
a vinyl,
Oh,
Like a
goes
vinyl
on, it
wrap,
says like Danvers
actually.
drives electric and such like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
But inside
okay.
the car, you really can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so once that's done, and once we have the station installed at one of the parking spots in front of Town Hall, that will be up at Town Hall for municipal use.
Okay.
And we're gonna have a system in place so people can take it on site visits, or to look at if they're going to a meeting or something, they'll be able to use the car. It will not be parked at Danvers Electric permanently. But yeah.
Okay.
If there are any questions?
Thanks, Jeff. Excellent. On the FEMA reimbursement, actually with the DPW Director of Operations leaving, that has fallen into my court, so actually I've been working on that and actually been signing off on the approvals. So things are moving along with that. I know it's been a long waited, we're just at MEMA's schedule. That is all being transferred over to the state, and so FEMA is transferring our numbers to the state, and we actually have to sign a contract with the state, with MEMA, in order to be able, then they give us pay our money. So it's coming, and hopefully at the next meeting we'll have those numbers, but we're close. It's going along at FEMA's rate, but the
What are we
person,
looking for?
it's like we're just under 100,000 for Danvers Electric.
Yeah, what about the town?
Town is more like almost 200.
Yeah, that was from the March storms, last
Yeah.
March, Mike.
Yep.
A lot of damage.
Not this one, but the one before, yeah,
Yeah.
of 18.
So it's in process. The last thing is we have the Clinton, Mark and I, this is the Danvers Electric project dashboard, which is we're using as a weekly tool to monitor our big projects, and especially ones that have future impact on the division. So this is not intended to
Okay,
take.
we don't have that, right?
You don't have this?
Um,
Look at the front page. There you go. It's just two
okay.
pages. So it's
All
two
right.
pages.
It's not mostly big utility stuff.
So So just make Baker Tilly's at the beginning, well,
Yeah.
we start with Station 42.
Yeah,
And
okay.
what this is not intended to replace Mark's capital plan that's on the, that we fund with the depreciation money. That will still, his capital plan will still be there, and we'll follow the dollars on that capital plan. Something like Station 42, which is really being designed with that's with our future impact on the system. Are we gonna redo those transformers? What are we gonna plans for? So that's a big enough project that we wanted to put on the project dashboard. So that'll be in both places. It'll be in Mark's CIP and on this, so our intention is to put both, the biggest projects will probably be in both places. And this isn't really monitoring dollars so much as schedule and milestones. So you see, we've divided up the Baker Tilly stuff into the three categories, the 3 or 4, financials, rates, and the software. So those are the 3 big Baker Tilly. Oh, do you have to go to the men's room?
Here.
You need, yeah. The 3 large categories, and that's how they divided them, and we're using them so we can keep ourselves organized. After the Baker Tilly stuff on the second page, then you see we have the PPA contracts, solar projects, demand response, and then last is the rate and tariff stuff that we were working on.
Yeah, thanks. With that, I'm all set, so we need to set our next meeting. So, I don't know what everybody's schedule is, I'm retired, so I
Well,
can do
usually we
this.
take August off, and we're talking about a September meeting.
Okay,
How does September 17th work?
Yeah, that's fine.
Stan, works for you, 17th? Then we'll get back to Madison again.
yeah, let me just check that.
I was like, oh no.
How's that work for you, Mike, the 17th?
17th is good, nothing.
Okay,
Wow, if you could make that work, that'd be
I'll let
fantastic.
Steph know as soon as I get home.
Okay.
all right, so the next meeting will be the 17th, 8:30. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, see everyone the 17th.